Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SF Live. I'm your host, Myrna Lim. Tonight we have a special guest. He is one of the candidates for supervisor in the city and county of San Francisco, and as you know, we have districts in San Francisco. He is out of District 7. He has a long history of leadership in the city of San Francisco, from civic to social to religious to labor, and he is running to contribute to the city and county of San Francisco and to move it forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we have FX Crowley. Hi, FX, how are you?
I'm well, Myrna. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure seeing you again.
Great. Now, how are you doing with the campaign's hard work, huh?
As you know, you've been through this. You're a venerable veteran.
Exactly.
And it's taking all its toll on my family.
Exactly.
But most of my family has graduated and is now out working, but I have one in college and one at home, and she's a freshman at St. Ignatius and finds this campaign to be a pain. However, if she could vote, she would very much be with me.
How's your wife taking it? Is she campaigning with you?
My wife is campaigning with me, and she has a family history. Her grandfather was a Board of Supervisor member from 1910 to 1936, I believe.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes. He was the
What was his name?
His name was J. Emmett Hayden,
Okay.
and I believe he was the first president under the 1932 charter, the new charter in the city and county of
Wow.
San Francisco.
Well, I didn't realize that.
Yes.
So your family is really an old San Francisco family type. I mean, you go
Correct.
all the way back.
I go 3 generations, she goes 4 generations.
Oh my goodness, in the same area?
Yes, in fact, our brothers attended St. Ignatius together, and our older brothers, her second oldest brother and
Right.
my oldest brother, attended University of California, Davis, and they were
Right.
roommates
Oh my
at one point
goodness.
in time. So that's how small this world is.
St. Ignatius is a great school.
St. Ignatius
My
is
daughter
a-
almost went there, but she chose Sacred Heart instead.
Well, you can't go wrong, I don't think, with any of the schools in San
Exactly.
Francisco. We try very hard to give in service to others, and that's a
Exactly.
moniker I've lived with the Jesuits
Right,
attending that school back when.
Now, you had been involved with the motion pictures as part of the labor negotiation team. Could you tell us about it? Because the motion pictures is one of the fast-growing industry in San Francisco, which could lend to some serious revenue generation, right? So, what do you think?
It absolutely is one of the more positive revenue generators for San Francisco. I've also had many stints on the Convention and Visitors Bureau Board of Directors. It's now called San Francisco Travel. I grew up working at the Ballet, the Opera, the Symphony, and ACT,
Right.
but I matriculated over to Lucasfilm, which was in the North Bay, where I worked on motion picture production there, learning and honing my craft
Wow.
as a stage electrician, a property master, and set decorator as
Right.
well. Numerous titles under IMDb, which is a
Right.
motion picture title. You go online and you find out what I was ranked and working in that industry. But it is a revenue generator for San Francisco. I will tell you, every time the crew that I represent works on these, and my last film, as I shared with you earlier, was the Woody Allen picture, was the last
Wow, I love Woody
negotiated
Allen.
contract.
Right.
They were shooting in our neighborhood in the west of Twin Peaks, which is unusual. But that was the last contract I negotiated in May before stepping down from the Stagehands
Right.
Union. I would maintain, going back to my original point, though, Myrna, that every time we put a leader of film on the silver screen, that translates into tourist and convention dollars.
Exactly.
Every day, the convention and tourist industry pays about not every day, but every year. In this past year, they paid $526 million into the general fund.
Wow.
These are services that are greatly needed by our budget here in the
Right.
city and county of San Francisco. Conventions are the same as motion pictures when it comes to generating revenue.
Right, right. Now, you have served in a number of commissions for the city, appointed by several different mayors.
That's correct. And my last stint was appointed by Governor Newsom to go down to the Port Commission to work on a little thing called America's Cup.
Oh, yeah.
And while I was there, because my local enjoyed, which was Local 16, the theatrical stage
Right.
employees had contracts with Oracle to do work at the convention center,
Right.
so he thought that would be a good fix. As I think I'm pretty adept at reaching compromise and pragmatic in terms of reaching goals and objectives when bringing product to San Francisco,
Right.
we were able to get the America's Cup with a great deal of
Excellent.
help.
Wow.
Although it was scaled down, it still is leaving in its wake the
Right.
James R. Herman Port Terminal, which is our
Okay.
new West Coast premier port terminal
Uh-huh.
that will be delivered on time and on budget when America's Cup leaves.
Excellent. So when does that start?
The America's Cup, it has, as you know, it has started.
Okay.
And again, it started some months ago, or 2 months ago, and just finished its first regalia. And it was a picture perfect postcard for San Francisco and for visitors to come visit us, because on the screen there
Right.
is cameras mounted on folks on their boats, and it was a postcard and a silver screen for visitors to come to San Francisco, generating millions of dollars of tourist money for San Francisco General Fund.
Wow, that's excellent. So, are you still working in the motion pictures industry?
I am, but
As
if I
a
could go back
negotiator.
and finish where I moved previous to the port. I was at the PUC,
Oh, that's right.
and one of the things I'm very proud of, well, two things really. The big one is while I was the chairman or the president of the PUC,
Right.
we did 1.6 billion dollars of infrastructure rebuild for our 4.6 billion dollar total water improvement systems for program
Right.
for our water system from Hetch Hetchy all the way from Hetch Hetchy down to the Bay Area. We repiped, and still in progress, by the way, should be completed by 2015. But while I was at the commission and while I was in charge of it, we did a lot of great things in the environmental justice area. We did a lot of great things for the environment. But I did 1.6 billion on time and on budget for the citizens of San Francisco. And I'm very proud of that fact, hoping to best what seismic activity that might happen and incur if we didn't rebuild it and we lose our water altogether from that system.
That's excellent.
Yes,
There's a lot of creation of jobs is a big thing all over the
Absolutely.
country. We've got California has one of the highest unemployment rate in the country, and a lot of people are basically struggling for employment.
that's correct.
To have that is excellent. So, what commission are you in now, or are you guys still allowed to serve in the commission? While
You
running
are
for
still
office?
allowed.
Okay.
However, Mayor Lee reached out to everyone running for elections here in San Francisco
Okay.
who was running for any post
Right.
and asked if they wouldn't mind stepping down. He felt at the time there might be a conflict of interest.
Sure.
Feeling that a campaign, as you might know,
Right.
takes all of the energy.
Plus, you still have a job. You still have to work, right?
I actually stepped down from my job. This is my full-time job.
Oh my God.
I stepped down in May from the stage employees, and I stepped down from my port commission, and I'm putting all my efforts and generating all my efforts.
What did your wife and your family have to say about that?
They're allowing me to follow through on the reason I'm here, in a sense, is because my brother John
Okay.
passed away from cancer some 4 years ago.
Okay.
And as we were whiling away after his cancer treatments and chemo treatments, I'd bring him home. We'd sit in the front living room where I grew up, and he's
Right.
living in a house he was living in a house where he purchased from the family,
Right.
and his wife and 2 boys who were then in grammar school. And he suggested to me that since I was the head of the PUC and I was so
Right.
prodigious on creating the opportunities and generating jobs, and I was so good at doing it at the local because we have a convention business and performing arts
Right.
and motion picture business, he suggested that I do something more for others, and that is really a Jesuit tagline.
Right.
And he said, my sons, your sons and daughters, he says, really deserve a better San Francisco. And I fear that most politicians who run for election are going for the next election and next seat. He goes, do something more for the next generation. Do something more for our children.
Sure.
Please make a better place
Sure.
for me. Promise me you will do that for me. And that's lived with me for the past 4 years. And when the opportunity came along, I decided that I have to give back
Right.
because of a promise I left with him
Right.
before he passed.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, what do you think of this? What do you think of this current supervisor? Is it much different from the previous set of supervisors who turned out, or what do you think?
In terms of the landscape of the,
Right. Is this crop of supervisors, you think, reflective of where San Francisco needs to go in terms of creating opportunities like you're talking about for the next generation, for a better San Francisco? What do you think?
my hope is that we all, in the spirit
Yeah.
of doing it, are trying to make a better San Francisco. That's why I honed my skills and my craft for the number of years that I did. Worked 30 years in an industry, and then ran it for the past 15. And getting those skills of
Right.
managing billion-dollar spreadsheets,
Right.
managing $1,300,000,000 in wages in the last 3 years, and
Right.
creating opportunities for folks in the convention industry, hoping to expand the Moscone footprint so we don't fall behind, increasing the technological advances for the craft that I represent. These are all things that come easy to me, and those are all things I think San Francisco can build upon, because those are the primary issues that involve San Francisco. We have so many industries in
Right.
computer technology that are building, and as we are really on the precipice of being bigger than Silicon Valley in many ways.
Exactly. Now you will be replacing Sean Ellsburn, who's
Correct.
termed out. How do you differ, or how are you similar with Sean Ellsburn in terms of, your perception of, or how you think, where San Francisco should be or should be going, that type of thing?
Boy, that's a tough question. Reality,
Uh-huh.
I believe that.
Well, you have a different background from
Well,
Sean
yeah,
Ellsburn, too.
absolutely. But
Right.
based on the experience
Right.
gained at the bargaining table, I'm hoping that I could bring most people together,
Okay.
because that's the pragmatic approach
Sure.
I seek to find a solution. I've been bargaining and negotiating for 15 years
Sure.
with the biggest employers in San Francisco: Lucas, Warner, Disney,
Right.
ACT, Opera, Ballet, Symphony,
Right.
plus all the conventions: Oracle, Apple,
Right.
Facebook, all those. And I believe that I am now poised to go to that table and help everyone get to that decision, that
Right.
pragmatic approach that we all need
Right.
to succeed in San Francisco. I'm running as a moderate, so I might be probably a little more to the center than Sean might be at this point in time.
Exactly. Well, but that's what you need, right? I mean, you don't need the cantankerous, although people kind of miss those times when Chris Daly was there and when Aaron Peskin was there. It's more like a reality show, I guess. Now this current board is kind of boring, I
Well-
guess, when people say boring is good in some ways, yeah.
But if we achieve our goals
Right.
on good legislation,
Right.
appropriate legislation, and prudent
Right.
legislation for the residents of San Francisco,
Right,
we've really achieved some good measure of being a better place.
exactly.
And that's, again,
You're probably more mature because of you're older, you've got 4 kids, you got a wife, so you're
I have to
not-
negotiate a lot, by the way.
Exactly.
Not only at the office, but at home.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So you don't have to prove anything. Right?
That's correct.
That's the thing.
As I like to tell people, my next move will be Colma. 50 years from today. So,
Yeah, I mean, that helps a lot. But I think that negotiations is really key, especially where the country is today, where the state is today, and where San Francisco is today. I mean, when you have a country where a corporation is a person, and that carries a lot of weight in terms of steering where the country is going. You need somebody who has a paradigm that could navigate through that system and still be able to produce
right.
for
And I believe I have the leadership skills, honing those skills, building
Right.
those skills, and bringing people together, because don't forget, I also have to run, I should say, past tense, ran an organization that was very democratic,
right.
that you have to ask people when you go into contract negotiations.
Right.
You have to bridge those gaps and make people understand
Right.
that in reality you have to raise the bridge or lower the water.
Right.
And every essence of being that I had, I did for the people I represent. And that's what I like to do in a larger scope with
Right.
people here. But it's leadership and experience. You can't replace those two.
Exactly. Now, you're also involved in the church, or your family is, right? You're Catholic?
I am Catholic. I spend a good portion of my time next to Lowell High School in a little school called St. Stephen's, where my kids went to grammar school.
Okay.
My wife raised money there as an endowment director.
Rodell Rodis, my friend goes there. Rodell and Edna.
Rodell and Edna, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
And as you know, we have special Filipino programs that have been larger than life over there.
Right.
But I have tried to live by those Jesuit terms, again, give back
Right.
in service to others. So
Uh-huh.
we have, we actually do, we've given back of time and energy, and I do masses every year. The outside mass, I set up
Right.
the sound myself. But my wife and I, even though we don't have a great deal of means, we've always put our money where our mouth is, and so our church has a name on it.
Right.
Our multi-purpose facility where we just built has our name on it, and again, St. Stephen's School, the new wing, has our name on it because
Right.
we believe in giving back in service to others, and that's also true. We have a scholarship at St. Ignatius, which I'm very, very proud of,
Right.
because some people don't have the opportunities my children have, and I sense that. Again, going back to that Catholic faith, giving
Right.
back to someone for others, is you need to do that if you have the means to do it. And so we have a scholarship in Nancy's parents' name, and we also give to the school itself because my daughter, of course, goes there. So we have been philanthropists there for since I've graduated, and so I really believe that that we need and society needs to do that.
That's excellent. Now, you mentioned a while ago, you're very familiar with the chief of police. So, it kind of daunting to, open the newspaper, well, the internet for the most part for me now, and see all this killings that's going on, all the muggings that's happening in the city. Not as much in District 7, but more in, say, Visitation Valley, Outer Mission, South of Market, and so on and so forth, where people are getting robbed with their chains, gold chains, and so forth. I mean, how would you navigate that field? How would you work with the police department, community, in terms of seeing if that area can be improved?
Well, certainly.
Right.
Craig and I, as I shared with you, grew up together. We played Pop Warner
And
football together.
You have your hair and he doesn't.
Well, that's he's a year older than I. To full disclosure, that's what a year does.
Okay.
But for this time, he is primarily the perfect person
Right.
to lead this department. He is a big believer in community policing.
Okay.
He's a big believer in programs that get the youth off the streets.
Right.
There has been some gang violence, as you know, some years ago.
Exactly.
He and Kevin Ryan, former U.S. Attorney,
Right.
Kevin Ryan, and Dennis Herrera, City Attorney,
Right.
put a gang injunction together,
Right, exactly.
which really reduced crime very, very well. Greg, when he was in the department, started it. Well, he didn't start there, but he when he was a captain,
Inherited,
worked
right.
at Mission Station where there was
Right.
all sorts of issues. Turned that around.
Right.
Then ended up at the Bayview Hunters Point and worked with the community. He's a big community policing
Right.
advocate, and one-on-one and getting into the crux of the issue is what he wants to see happen.
Right.
If they can identify these folks and keep them away from gang violence, it's
Right.
happening in every city. But one of the serious measures that San Franciscans ought to understand is we now have academy classes going through, and we need 6 of them in the next several years because 344 police officers will be retired by next summer.
Oh, really?
So
You mean they can retire, but they don't have to, right?
they will be retiring.
They will be retiring.
They will be retiring. Right now, we have a full staffing of 1,971 by city charter, and that hasn't happened in a number of years. But the
Right.
chief, the board of supervisors, and the mayor have gotten together and recognized that training needs to go forward, and they have now put monies aside for these
Right.
academy training classes to move forward. So we are training the next generations of police officers.
That's great.
My fear is that you lose a great deal of experience with 344 sworn officers
Exactly.
go. And I've had extensive discussions with
Right.
the chief about this and how to help the department get up to speed much more
Right.
quickly.
Now, how are you getting along with Mayor Lee in terms of with you being, if you are hopefully become a supervisor, how would you work with him?
I think Mayor Lee, because of his background as a
Right.
CAO,
Right.
I used to work with him
Oh, okay.
specifically in the convention area, which is
Alright.
a big business for San Francisco. I think he knows the nuts and bolts and knows how to get things done. He has several things on his plate in this election. Not
Right.
only is he trying to get a supervisor elected in
Right.
one other district, but he has the housing trust that replaces the redevelopment agencies.
Oh, that's right.
He has the parks bond, which is very important.
Right.
He has the gross receipt tax replacing the payroll tax.
Right.
All valid, good things for the city and county of San Francisco. And I believe Ed Lee has proven himself and his ability last year by bringing a consensus of labor and business together in a city and county on yes on C, no on D to fix the pension problem that was existing at the point in time.
Right. Okay, we only have a minute, so let's talk about your campaign quickly.
Okay?
So how are you doing your campaign? What are you doing? Are you knocking on doors?
I have, yes. I've been knocking on doors, worked on redistricting first because we were redistricted out in
That's right,
January
right.
and
Where's
by
your
March.
headquarters?
My headquarters is a 162 West Portal Avenue, right next to the Village Grill.
Okay.
It is
I
a
love that
great
place.
location.
Yeah.
Nothing but support.
By the train.
Yes, right in the middle block of West Portal Avenue.
Okay.
Our campaign is going really well. We have a lot of large endorsements.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm very proud of that fact. Saturday we'll kick off our campaign, and we'll have a large contingent of the Asian community there. Leland Yee will be there. Phil
Oh,
Ting will
okay.
be there. Fiona Ma will not be there because she's away, but she's endorsed me as number one. And we are kicking
Awesome.
off.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. FX Crowley. Good night.
Thanks, Myrna.
See you.